Hello, hello, and welcome to the Best of Breed e-commerce webinar. My name is Søren, and I'll be one of your hosts today. We will have multiple speakers here today, so who can answer your questions. So I will introduce them to you as we go. I think we have a webcam issue here, Anna. Everything's black on my end. Oh well, I'll just go and we'll see how it goes here. So best of breeds. So the agenda for today is we're going to talk about sort of the excellent. Thank you, Michael. We'll talk about the sort of the big problem of e-commerce today. Then we'll look at best of breed composable e-commerce. How can we make it happen? And then we'll discuss the Commerce Alliance. There is a Q&A at the end. But we'll also have some questions for you as we go. So I hope you'll play along with us today and answer the questions in chats. The way you find the chat is over to the right-hand side of the screen. There's two little speech bubbles where you can ask questions and comments, and I hope you'll use them as we go. Before we get started, let's try out the chats just so I know that you know where it is. So I'll just start by telling you where I'm from, and you can do the same. I know you're all from various places in the UK region. So let's just go with the town or city you live in. So I live in a city called Silkeborg. It's sort of a nice place with lakes and forests and things like that. So it's a great place to hike and do mountain biking and things like that. Please go ahead and try out the chat and let me know where you're all from there in the city. And as you do that, I'll move right along and introduce the other people on the call here today. So let's move into the slides here a little bit. There we go. So with me today is Simone. Come and join me here. So Simone and I are in Aarhus, and our offices happen to be in the same city. So we decided to team up here. And maybe you want to introduce yourself a little bit to the audience, Simone?
Yeah. My name is Simone, and I'm representing Raptor today. I work in our partner management team with a special focus on new markets, which is also why I'm here today. And I'm really looking forward to meet all of you guys and to hear more about what your thoughts about the e-commerce world and our little alliance here.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So if you have questions on recommendation, personalization, customer data platforms, Simone is definitely your gal. Joining us from Struct, we have Simon Leider, who is the CTO. Welcome, Simon. Do you want to say hello to the audience?
Hello, everyone, and thank you for having us. Yeah, I'm here with my colleague, Per. We're situated in Odense, so we decided to stay here and join in online with you guys.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Questions on product information management, Struct in particular. They are your people there. And joining me from the UK is Mr. Vass, who is our channel manager over there. So he is the guy to talk to if you're interested in partnering with us or, of course, any of the others as well. He can facilitate contact if you need that. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you. And I'm in the sunny south, or not so sunny today.
Thanks very much. So that's the panel. We're hoping for a sort of an informal vibe today. So I wore a t-shirt just because, you know, I think Simone is probably the best dressed of all of us today. So good job on that one. But feel free to just jump in with questions and things like that. So let's move right along and talk about the big problem of e-commerce. So I've had the pleasure of working with e-commerce for 20 years. I started out in the agency space, building out solutions like many of you do. And what struck me as we sort of started to talk about best of breed and things like that is how little things have actually changed over 20 years. I think that the big challenge of e-commerce projects today is that they tend to be implemented on a platform. So the technology is the starting point for building out a solution. And so that technology that you select becomes the sort of the hub of everything that you do. And the challenge there is that it sort of shortens the lifespan of your solution, because obviously one platform is not enough to drive a full e-commerce setup these days. The requirements of selling online have just grown and grown over the years, and so we need more and more platforms to be able to support us. But the challenge is that they're not sort of wired up in the best way today. So we're here to try and talk about a way of dealing with that, and how we can sort of complement each other as we build out these solutions, so customers can enjoy them for many, many more years than what is usually the case. So we'll start with the first question, which is one that's I'm actually very curious as to what you're going to say. So the first question of the day is this: how many years, in your experience, does an e-commerce project live? You know, you build it, you deploy it, and then at some point you re-platform to something else. So I'm curious, say the last project you worked, if you're an e-commerce manager, or the last project you implemented, how long do they typically live? And I don't know, Simon, if you want to, while the audience is typing in their answers there, if you want to maybe talk a little bit about, in your experience, how long e-commerce projects live from a sort of a full end-to-end perspective.
Yes, I can try to elaborate on my experience in that field at least. So of course it depends a lot on the complexity and how many systems and integrations it's involved. But if you have a pretty standard e-commerce solution built on a single system, in my experience, they don't tend to last very long. Typically, these have been outgrown within, say, 3 years or so. In that space, so many new things have happened and new platforms have arrived that solve specific problems in a better way. So you need to re-platform to those, or you need to move all of your e-commerce solutions to that new area in order to support the new things that comes to market. So that's my experience, at least.
Excellent. I don't know, Paul or Simone, do you want to pitch in on that, or does that sort of resonate with your experiences as well? Simone is nodding over here.
Yeah.
Simone agrees. Excellent. And Lucy there is saying 3 years as well. So I don't know if there's other experiences there, but it's interesting, because in my experience, it's much the same. Of course, you can have solutions that live for a long, long time. At Ucommerce, we have customers who've been with us for 6-7 years, so obviously a solution can live much longer. So it depends a little bit on maybe ambition and how much a company sort of evolves, but that's sort of around that. And that's the big problem, is that, you know, clients are forced to re-platform every year, and I don't think many customers are really that interested in a massive IT project. It carries a lot of risk. It carries a lot of, you know, time and money requirements. So if we can somehow change that equation to avoid that in the future, so rather than having to rebuild everything from scratch, maybe we can find a better way. And actually, the way we do product development, I think it's the same for Struct and also for Raptor, is actually also one way we don't throw anything away. We sort of iterate. We continue to improve on the platforms and technologies we have, because basically it just makes sense, because it takes too long to get up to speed again if you throw everything away and start from scratch. So why should a customer do that when we don't, right? So what we're here to do today is to see how we can extend implementation lifetimes from the 3 years thereabouts to 5 to 10 years, so the solution can grow and evolve with you as a customer, and basically benefit for many more years while sort of adapting to the new reality. So let's take a look at that. And I believe, and we believe, that the way to go is to maybe to flip the equation on its head. So for many years, and I've done this myself in my consultancy and agency days, I would go out, talk to a client, and I would sort of go back and think about all the requirements, and I would prescribe a platform. And the challenge with that is, of course, that, you know, it becomes the hub of everything and it can't do everything. So you need to add in more solutions. So what we propose is a shift in paradigm when it comes to technology. So rather than looking at the platforms that we're implementing, rather than looking at Struct or Raptor, Ucommerce or the CMS, you know, look at the solution the client needs, right? Look at the actual problem we're trying to solve, and then, you know, think about that as the platform. So rather than a technology vendor owning the platform, it becomes the customer, the client, who owns the actual platform. So that's why we call it solution as platform. So the idea is really to think of the platform not as the technology, but as the actual thing that agencies are building for customers. So that's the cloud metaphor here. The idea is to compose this solution with many different technologies that sort of fit the bill, right? So we try and leverage the best tool for the job, right? So the cool thing is that we propose a solution here that consists of 4 technologies, but it could be more, it could be less, but you can build as you go, right? So you don't have to start implementing all of it in one go. You can sort of implement what you need right now. Maybe you just need a website, so implement the CMS. Maybe you just need you know, customer data platform, because that's where you need to start. Maybe you need to do catalogs and different channels and things like that. So start with the PIM or something like that, right? And then as you mature, as you need more stuff, you start to implement more pieces of the puzzle. So you end up with a situation where, you know, rather than trying to do everything at once, you can sort of do it piecemeal and evolve the platform. So that's the implementation phase of a best-of-breed solutionist platform type of approach to dealing with this problem. And of course, we'll end up having a bunch of things here. Now, the key point here is that, you know, don't look at it as, you know, we need all these technologies. We need 10 to 20 different platforms. It's going to be hugely costly in license cost and implementation and all that. Think about the 1 or 2 platforms that will get you going. So you can start by implementing them and then build out from that. Because again, the solution is not the platforms. It is the actual, you know, customer-facing solution that drives the actual implementation here. So I have another question for you, and I hope you'll play along here. And I'm curious again, because I've heard different answers to this question. So I'm kind of curious as to where you stand as a customer and as an agency on this one. And that is, you know, in an e-commerce project, where do you usually start? What is the starting point for a successful implementation of a solution? I know the Struct guys, they have their opinions. Probably Simone does as well. Obviously, I do too. But it would be interesting to hear your take on this. I think that stuff that you need to think about is, what is the most immediate problem you have? Is it selling online? Is it not being able to provide the correct products or content to your customers? And then sort of prescribe a solution from there. So let's see what we can get out of this one. And actually, Simone, it's interesting because when your technology is implemented, it's usually done sort of once the full project has been implemented. So you have the advantage of looking back and seeing what's been done. So if you come in here again, maybe you could answer what you see when you're out there and getting your own technology implemented in a solution. What do you see sort of as the path through?
Yeah, so from our perspective, Raptor, we don't deliver the last mile. So our personalization is being pushed out to the existing parts in the existing tech stack, which is of course a CMS, e-commerce system, and also an email marketing system. That's usually what we see is the base where we tap into. Because in order to deliver our recommendations, we need something to deliver it in. Yeah. So that's our natural part in. It's usually through the CMS or through the email marketing system.
Excellent. So that's where you sort of see your anchorage.
Yeah,
makes sense.
Exactly.
And Simon, let's see. So Michael here has a question. How is the consumer already shopping in this space? What are the barriers for them, and what does the data show us they need from improvements? And that is a great, excellent way to approach it. And I could not agree more. You know, it's not about technology, it's about customer requirements and the barriers that we need to break down to create success out there. Simon, I'm curious about your take on this, because Struct is an interesting technology in that it's a product information management system. And so I know some agencies that insist on starting with a PIM system. And I think, I don't think I need to hear you agree with that. I think that's a given, right? But does it ever make sense not to start with the PIM as a more challenging and maybe provoking question to you?
Yeah, yeah. So you're right. Of course, I think that a PIM system is the place you should start in many cases, as you need to have a complete control of your data and make sure that the quality of data is very good before you start to actually put them to your customers. But I would say though that it also depends on the ambitions of the end client. So if this is the first time they're going online, maybe they don't have the maturity to start to look into their products. Maybe they just need to sort of digitalize their products they already have. In that case, they might just get a job quicker done by starting in another place. Typically, what we see when we get into projects is that it is the second or third platform that they implement for a customer, because they've started out back in the day with an e-commerce solution, an ERP system, and they've come so far. But now, as the requirements from their clients increase, they need to have more data. They need to showcase their products in a better way, and that's when a PIM system comes into play. So it's typically that we see e-commerce merchants having come far actually, but needing a PIM system to get that extra mile, and that's pretty much the same as I would probably think Simone sees as well. That many times you've done some things, you have a lot of experience from doing e-commerce, but then you see what can we do to perform even better compared to what we do today, and that's where a PIM system comes into play as well.
Excellent. And I'm curious, when you sort of get in after the fact, is there like an additional cost associated with that you have to sort of change a lot of business process or something like that, or is it simply easier to start with the PIM and then work your way out from that?
Yeah, it very much depends. So it can become an expensive task to do if you build up a lot of data in another system and it's not very well structured. Then you have a lot of migration to do to move that data into a structured format of a PIM system like ours. But if you have a somewhat structured data format, then it's you can easily move into a PIM system afterwards, so you can actually build that up. And again, a PIM system is very much like having an iterative project. So it's not like you implement a PIM system, you set up a data model, and then that's fixed forever. No, so typically you start off with a simpler data model, and then you build on that as you go on. So when new business requirements resurface, you build new data models in the PIM system to support those. So you can start out simple and then move on from that. So it very much depends on the case in question.
Excellent. And of course, from an e-commerce perspective, you want to sell, the commerce platform kind of just makes sense, right? So I would always recommend getting that in there, of course. Good, excellent. There's actually another one, and this is me sort of asking a question that I'd like you to think about, because I think we need to do this more, and that's this one here. So, do you roadmap out the journey for your client? And what I mean by this is, is there a clear vision from point A to point B? So you think about sort of the steps required to mature the business to a point where, the product recommendation makes sense, customer data platforms and all that. Or is it sort of, we're going to do the first thing and then not talk about it, talk about sort of the bigger journey? Because I don't know, Mr. Vass, you are in lots of engagements with lots of partners and lots of clients. What do you see out there? Is there a clear idea of business requirements of where you want to go, or is it a little more, let's call it organic in the way that a project sort of comes into existence?
Certainly, from what I see, it's fairly organic. The CMS is the starting point, and then across the different agencies or customers, then they're deciding, is it the commerce piece first? Is it the marketing? then they're putting it together. But it is very organic, and each customer is different. There is no there's no simple fix for that one.
Yeah. And what do you think from a roadmap perspective? Is there something we can do as vendors and as agencies to help the clients sort of get to like a bigger vision of what's possible?
I think what we're showing here is where we all work together and it plugs in together nicely. It makes that starting piece much easier and makes that journey a lot quicker. So yeah, what we're doing here and hopefully showing is going to make it quicker for everyone.
Excellent. Thank you. And remember, everybody, if you have questions on this, please use the chat. I know you know where it is, so please feel free. Otherwise, we'll just jam over it, and I hope you enjoy it. So let's move on to the next one here, which is what happens after the thing has been implemented. And to be sure, lots of foundational technologies will be put into place at this point. And I think after the initial implementation, that's where best of breed solution as platform really shines, because that's where we realize a number of years that additionally to what we did before, because putting a technology into place is very similar to the old way of doing it, but having that vision of where you want to go and tying together all the platforms, super key. So the thing here, let's imagine, as a business, you've realized your potential. This is where you want to go. You have everything in place. The solution is the framework, the frame around which everything evolves. And now, things starts to change because, maybe you're going into a new business area. So as an example, I had the pleasure of speaking to a Dutch company yesterday that are selling teaching supplies to primary and secondary schools. And their challenge there was that they needed to get into, so they've been selling classic teaching materials, and they want to move into digital licenses and things like that. So a great example of a transition where you move from a fairly well understood business model into, again, a fairly well understood business model, but it is a recurring subscription business that has vastly different requirements for when you need to go to market and sell it and things like that. And they need to involve other systems. And of course, some other things go away, right? So this is also a way to remove things. So it doesn't have to always be sort of like an ongoing journey where you just add stuff. You can also get rid of stuff, simplify, make everything, have less moving parts. In everything that I've done in my career, it's always been a goal of removing moving parts to make everything simpler, but remove redundancies and things like that. And this enables it because the website and the business solution that's in place supports that journey. And of course, swapping out pieces. So I think what's important here for all of us here is that I don't think any of us actually aim to be it forever, right? So certainly from my perspective, Ucommerce is targeted very squarely in the mid to low end enterprise business, and that's where we want to be. We don't want to tackle the very large solutions, nor the very small one with very standard solutions or requirements rather. So we absolutely expect to be replaced at some point once a business grows too large. And I don't know in your space what your thinking is about this. Do you plan to be it always, or?
Yeah, I would say yes.
Okay.
Right now we're working with some of the biggest enterprise companies in Denmark. And we can definitely handle those.
Yeah.
So we see that our solution replaces some of our competitors as they grow. And our goal is to be it. And so far we have made it in the Danish market. So I think we can do that international as well.
And you have big ambitions to grow, as I understand. Yes.
We do have, yeah.
Excellent. And so Raptor would be a thing you grow into. And I think that's true for all of us, right? That, we all have lower tier competitors that, they solve a nice problem. And at some point, the ability of that particular solution ends. And then you move into something else. So, and Raptor is sort of the high-end offering there. What about you, Simon, on the Struct side there? What do you see from a PIM perspective? Do you see PIM sort of being replaced, in and out, or is it more like a staying thing that sticks around for a little longer?
Yeah, you could say that a PIM system is typically a type of system that has a longer lifespan than e-commerce solutions typically have. because you spend a lot of time in maturing your data in the PIM system and moving that out into another data structure, maybe it doesn't give you much else compared to what you already have, and also it can be very expensive to do so. So I think that the general lifespan of a PIM system is somewhat longer, more compared to an ERP system maybe. If you look at Struct, we are not a fit for everyone either. So we are also in the mid-market, I would say, and leaning towards the enterprise market, but not the biggest fish out there. There would be other systems more well suited for having super complex governance rules and something like that. But for the mid-markets and where you focus a lot of on the product data and so to speak, that's where we are very comfortable. And again, just like with Ucommerce, the very small ones and the more simple solutions, that's not where we are a good fit either.
All right, excellent, thank you. So, and I think the advantage of this model is that you can, you can get started somewhere and you can grow into the thing, and you don't have to worry too much about replacing a piece, because you're not replacing the entire thing. You're just picking out the puzzle piece. It's not trivial, of course, replacing a PIM or an e-commerce engine or a recommendation. Not easy, right? But it is easier than replacing the entire thing. So, so that's the sort of the key point there. Oh shoot, here we go. Sorry, switching slides on a completely different screen. So, so another question for you, and I hope the audience will join in on this one. So, what is the sort of the major advantage of best of breed? I think we've sort of covered it a little bit, but I think Mr. Vass, maybe you wanna jump in here and give us a thought on how do we talk about this? What is it that a customer should look out for as a key benefit of best of breed?
I think in terms of best of breed, it's I'm going to use the words alliance. It's that commitment from the partners who have joined that, the vendors, to maintain that link, the APIs and the code, and have that commitment to make sure it's there, not just for 6 months, a year, but longer. So that when you're putting that platform or platforms together, you've got that longevity. So the trust is out there as well. So I think that's what we're looking for.
Yeah, and I think maybe an interesting question for you you must find yourselves in a situation where you maybe go in and replace pieces of a suite type solution or something like that.
Yeah.
So do you find that they're able to deliver the same level of value that you can, or what do you see sort of improvement wise when you take a best of breed platform?
Yes, I would say one of the biggest advantages is definitely you get a specialist of each solution within your tech stack. So you get a solution where someone has focused solely on solving a very specific issue and are focusing on developing the solution within a recent area. And I think that's one of the biggest advantages.
Yeah.
You really get a high quality solution, and you get a specialist to solve your problem, which is also why when we compete against the suite solutions, our solution is always performing better, because we are only focusing on what we're doing, and we're not trying to be experts in a lot of different business areas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's like a logical conclusion that when you focus in on something, you kind of have to be better at it, right?
Exactly.
Otherwise you're dead, basically.
Exactly.
I can sort of share from an e-commerce platform perspective that we are in an interesting space, right? Because we cover quite a wide breadth of capabilities. So we have a little bit of product information capability within the e-commerce platform, but when you compare what we can do to what Struct can do, for example, there is no competition at all. Struct is leaps and bounds a better solution, and I think that shows because we have to invest in discount engines and product catalog engines and order management, a bunch of things that we can sort of cover sort of lightweight things and be like a hub for some of this stuff. But we would never build something that is not very, very core to e-commerce, because it's just such a wide area to play in, and I think it was quite the eye opener when Simon showed me the Struct capabilities there, because we built some of the same technology, but it's just great to see when when a company like Struct focuses in on what they do, you know, that the amount of detail that you can get out of a solution like that is just amazing. And of course, it lives for much longer, as Simon so eloquently says. Cool. I don't know.
I would also agree with Lucy that the scalability is also one of the biggest advantages.
Yeah.
For e-commerce and digital business, it's a fast-changing world, and you need to be agile and need to be able to change smaller pieces of your tech stack. I think it can be dangerous if you get stuck in a system because it's a year-long project to change just a small thing.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Simon has a point he wants to make. Go ahead, Simon.
Yes, I also just want to, of course, second everything you're saying, but also add to that one of the things that I see as a key thing with the best of breed thought is the ability to move faster. So because you're working with different technologies, you can move much faster. We can move much faster because we're just focusing on products, and you can move much faster because you're just focusing on your things. So whenever, the e-commerce space moves very fast. So we are able to adopt new technologies much faster compared to if we need to sort of cover the whole area. Also, what I think you as a partner is able to do is sort of stitch together a solution that is much more suited to the requirements of the end client, because you might have a customer who needs to scale all around the world. So you need to find an e-commerce solution who can do that. Maybe you don't have complex products, so you don't need complex product management systems. So you can go with a simple solution for that. Maybe you have the opposite thing where you just need to have a solution that sells your products in the UK, but you have very complex products. You have a lot of products. You do have problems with getting them out there in time, and you can then select the items that fits best for the requirements of that client. Whereas the suite solutions would sort of be a mid-table for everything and wouldn't be very good at anything. So that's also one of the things I would say.
That's a great point. Thank you, Simon. Cool. Moving right along. So I thought it was sort of fair to cover both the advantage and disadvantage of the best of breed approach. But we do believe, you know, that with this approach of having multiple vendors focusing on each of the things that make them special and just going very deep on each of those technology areas, and having a focus on the solution as a platform rather than the technology, you know, we believe that you can extend your lifetime of the solutions that are implemented for clients to 5 to 10 years, maybe even longer, right? Because theoretically, you should be able to just keep on improving this stuff. And I want to make another point, which is at least for Struct and ourselves, we're looking at a core technology transition from in the Microsoft space from the old .NET stack that was available into .NET Core that some of you will be familiar with. And obviously, Simon has his team there building out core support for his product, and we have our team here doing the same. So, you know, it's we can do it faster because there's twice as many people doing it, right? So just basic math at that point. So just from a pure technology perspective, it makes sense as well when we face major transitions within the technology space as vendors. So, but let's dive into to another question here, which is, you know, the flip side. What is the disadvantage of best of breed? Because I think there's a lot of buzz about headless solutions and best of breed and things like that in the market. Certainly, lots of customers talking about it, but I also get the sense that the disadvantages are not being spoken about too loudly. So I figured it would be great to just have a little bit of a discussion about, you know, what is the sort of the flip side of all this? And I don't know if anybody wants to jump in with a comment here. Maybe Paul, Simon, Simone.
Yeah, I would say that the reason why I think most companies they choose a suite solution is because it's a one-stop shop, and you don't have to deal with the whole jungle about finding out which components to use and who works well together and who doesn't. It can really be a jungle, and if you don't have the right knowledge, or if you don't have a partner that can help you, then it can really be a jungle. But that's also one of the reasons why we started Commerce Alliance, because it gives us as a best of breed company, it gives us a task in our communication we need to be very clear about what our solution can do, and what the ideal customer is for us. And that's what we are also trying to do with our alliance here, creating a stack which we can guarantee that it works well together. And if you have these pieces, then you have a well-running e-commerce solution. So yeah.
That's definitely a great point. I think we've all seen those crazy MarTech slides that are like hundreds of logos, you know, and I wouldn't want to be a customer that would have to go and dig that out. It's just one piece, you know, you have maybe 60 solutions to pick from, right? And you need to pick maybe 5-10 pieces to go, right? So being able to do it as you go and maybe pick some is a good way to go, but it's still a lot of choice. So there's definitely something there to be mindful of. I think another example is, you know, we've talked a lot about the suites and what they do well and what, or rather what they don't do so well. But I think we also need to give the suites credit, because as you say, it is a one-stop shop that you log into and you have all your stuff available as an e-com manager or a marketing person. So that's definitely a clear advantage, where best of breed, you know, you will have these disconnected systems that each focus on, you know, their own piece. Which, you know, it's just something to keep in mind, that you will have to log into multiple systems. I think we do it more and more these days, at least if I just look at Ucommerce as a company, we log into Slack, we log into email, we log into all sorts of things. So maybe it's all right, but I definitely think that there is something here that requires an answer over time, and I don't think we actually have it now. I don't know, what have you seen, Mr. Vass?
Clicking the button. Yeah, it's an ever-changing market out there. So yeah, and it may be more interesting to hear from one of the partners out there as to what they're seeing. You know, from a reality check. You know, we always like,
very interesting to hear.
We like to think what we're right. You know, we're doing that. But from a partner perspective, have any of you out there got a viewpoint on this?
Let's see.
Yeah, because the partners is the one that can actually support the company, because they have the knowledge of each solution, so they can lower the barrier of a best of breed solution. It's one of the ways to do it. Yep,
and I think, you know, one of the reasons we included this slide is, you know, say you're a company that wants to go online and you want to sell, maybe you're already doing so, right? But you decide you want to do like a best of breed solution. Just doing that is fairly easy to make the argument and going with that. But then you end up in this situation where you need to pick a PIM system, you need to pick a recommendation, and you need to pick a CMS, an e-com engine, maybe a marketing, email marketing platform, whatever, right? All sorts of things. And it's a lot of stuff to contend with, just making decisions on this before you even get started building the thing. So it requires a lot from the implementation partner that does this, but also from the customer, you know, what works for our business. So you can end up in a like analysis paralysis situation where, you know, there's so much choice, which is the dark side of best of breed. Now we can pick from anything, right? So it can be easier to just, you know, jump onto a one-stop shop. And I will say this too, that if you look at these, when you make these decisions, it's also interesting to ask the questions, do they work together at all? So just take Raptor and Ucommerce, for example. You know, before we sort of entered into this partnership, they didn't work together, right? There was no connection. So you could pick best of breed, one e-commerce platform and one recommendation engine, but there was no glue tying it all together. And I think you're going to find this in a lot of cases when you just go out and pick solutions. So asking the question, does it actually work together? Because it is quite the project to glue together this stuff. Simon and I work closely on the integration between Struct and Ucommerce. It was, you know, we kind of, I think it's safe to say that Simon knows his stuff. And it still took a good while to create like integrations between the two platforms. So Simon, I don't know, I think as a PIM vendor, you tend to exist in a best of breed solution quite a lot, right? You have to work with other platforms. So what do you see from an integration perspective? Is it something that, flies, partners spend lots of time on, or is it something that just sort of goes easily enough, or what's your take on that?
Yeah, I think it's changing actually. If we look back just a few years, I think it was more difficult for an agency to build these integrations. They were more complex. But I think we're seeing a changing technology these years that makes integration easier. Everything has APIs nowadays, which makes integration easier compared to just 2, 3, or 5 years ago. So that's certainly an improvement on that. But I do see that our PIM system typically solves 95% of the problems that you have. So you can just configure that in the system. There's no need to sort of code anything. And then the code that you need to do is actually the integration with the other systems, being the e-commerce solution, being the ERP system, or whatever. And of course, that's where the time is used. And again, how much time is acceptable to use very much depends on the use case. So if you're working in a complex scenario, a complex setup, then of course there will be more complex integrations. Whereas if you're working with, if you're comparing to something that's just a one-shot stop asset, I mean, you would imagine that you would just have it up and running in a day or so. And of course, this is different than that. But again, that's what we've tried to mitigate with this integration accelerator that we've been working on together here. But again, yes, of course, integration is something that you need to worry about when you talk about best of breed.
Yep. Good. Excellent. Thank you very much. So let's jump to another one here. So analysis paralysis is also figuring out what are the core solutions that you need for a solution, and that's part of the reason why we're here between Struct, Raptor, and ourselves, is that we feel that we know at least a little bit about what we can do, right? So from our perspective, we all agree, PIM system, if you want to build like a serious e-commerce solution, probably a PIM system is at least worth considering, and in many cases worth implementing, because as Simon said earlier, data quality is a big issue, and interestingly enough and annoyingly enough, that was one of the first things I learned back in the early 2000s, that data quality was a problem, because we had data coming out of an ERP system and we wanted to stick it into an e-commerce engine, but the data there was usually used for like the little tags on a shelf, right? So it's like maybe 40 characters and a price, and that was fine for a retail supermarket or something like that. But on the internet, you need a little more than that. So it's interesting to see in 20 years how little has actually changed. But so definitely consider a PIM. It is a good foundational piece. And what's interesting about the PIM is that it turns into sort of like the hub that sort of aggregates all the product information you have and sort of acts as like a traffic cop almost, that sort of divvies out the data for the channels that you have. So definitely consider that. It doesn't have to be Struct, it can be anything, but consider a PIM. Same thing for e-commerce, right? If you're doing e-commerce, and I don't know, I'm just assuming that you probably want to sell some stuff online, right? So consider an e-commerce platforms to do like the fast presentation of products, to do pricing, to do discounts, to do all the things that you need. I think it's kind of like a no-brainer if you want to do e-commerce. And again, you can choose whatever you want, but you need this as a foundational piece to get going. We also feel that a CMS is fairly important these days, because CMS does enable you as a customer, as a client, to tell the story to your customers, and as partners, it provides like a handy place to build out the actual solution as platform capabilities. So the CMS tends to be the centerpiece of that. And then finally, of course, a personalization engine, maybe a data platform in Simone's ecosystem. You can start with recommendation, right? And you can move into more advanced stuff as you mature. So even within the journey, there is like a subplot, if you will, for just going to customers even more. So I don't know what that looks like generally for you.
Yeah, that's correct. That's great. I would say most of our customers, they start with a lot of our customers start with personalization, and then they will move over to the customer platform on time.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, the roadmap the roadmap slide from earlier, we're working a lot with roadmaps because it's a whole data journey that the customer will be on, and we will follow them throughout that.
Yeah, excellent. Good. Let's move right along here. So there's another question here. I think we'll skip that because we're running a little long on time. So we just want to introduce to you the Commerce Alliance and what that does. So all the things we've talked about thus far are like concepts that have nothing to do with Raptor, Struct, or Ucommerce. It just makes sense regardless of which platform you use. The advantages, disadvantages, they're the same for like a general best of breed or a composable commerce architecture. What we wanted to do with Commerce Alliance was to make it a little more accessible to get at. So we decided to partner between us because we feel like these are like good fundamental pieces to bring into play. So so you have like a good starting point for your data quality. You have the ability to convert, and once you start converting, you can increase basket sizes, conversion rates, and all that. So sort of we get around a little bit in the beginning and towards the end there, where you want to sort of leverage more value from your platform. And all this, there was also sort of like an interesting common denominator, which was the Umbraco CMS that all of us know. We're all Danish companies, so it kind of made sense to leverage Umbraco. Struct has a close partnership with Umbraco. Ucommerce does as well. And I don't actually know what your relationship is with Umbraco these days. I guess it's something you see Raptor implemented on quite a lot.
Yeah, I mean, we see on Umbraco, but we see Raptor on a lot of different CMS. Yes. So we are not tied closer with Umbraco than anyone else.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the advantage of best of breed. You can basically pick what you want, right? But we sort of felt like this was like a good package to go to market with, to try and avoid some of the analysis paralysis. Sorry, I need to say it right. So we sort of make some decisions on your behalf. If you want, you can do something completely different if you want. But these technologies we have sort of enabled to work well together. So to create a convenient solution where you can get started with a best of breed approach. So you don't have to make tons of decisions to start with. You can go to market with this, get started, and then as you mature, you can implement more of the Commerce Alliance pieces or other pieces, and you can replace the pieces as you go, of course, because it's not our ambition to always be it. It depends on your requirements, right? Sometimes your requirements increase. So as in Simone's case, you go with an enterprise solution. Other time they decrease. So maybe you find out the ambitions in a certain level was not exactly what you thought. So you can also sort of go the other way. It doesn't always have to be like an ever sort of expanding thing. You can decide other things make sense. Faster time to market, obviously. The idea here is that we wanted to try and just in not having to decide which pieces you need, that's already a good place to be, and also deciding what the name of those pieces should be. Already you save a lot of pre-analysis work, right? And of course we wanted to glue these pieces together with integration accelerators, so we could sort of make sure that things that give you a starting point. So between all these platforms, we have set up integration accelerators. They're like little code pieces that you can get and use. They offer like an 80% solution where you're almost there, but you can still tweak it and probably will need to tweak it, but it does work out of the box, so you can see how it actually plays out. And so with that, what we're trying to do here is to basically create the foundation of your next enterprise e-commerce project. So we give you the pieces that you need. We give you the integrations required. We pick out best of breed platforms within the foundational pieces that we believe are essential for a modern e-commerce solution. And we eliminate some of the guesswork in actually picking out PIM recommendation in e-commerce platforms and CMS, of course. So due to the integrations we have in place that you can take off the shelf and use, you should have a faster, cheaper go-to-market approach. And of course, it realizes the best of breed promise of longer lifespans for your solutions. And the best part is that it's all demoable, so you can see it in action. And I'm going to give it a go. So we'll see how it goes. This is my first time demoing. It's usually Simon doing it, so I figured I'd give it a go, and maybe I'll ask Simon to take over if I completely bomb on this one. But we'll see how it goes. So fingers crossed, everybody. So I'll share my screen here, and it's this one. Whoops. So sorry about that. There we go. Do you see an Umbraco login screen here? I hope you do. So what we're looking at here is, what's that?
I think we saw it just before. I think we're seeing that.
Oh, let's see. Are you seeing it now?
Yes.
Okay, good. Wrong screen. Good. Thank you very much. So what we're looking at here is Struct running inside of Umbraco, and Struct is basically, you know, dealing with all the product information. As you can tell over here, there's taxonomies and things like that you can set up. So it's like the repository for your products. You can do all sorts of cool reporting and things like that. So you can sort of use Struct as a standalone product. It just happens to use Umbraco. So think of it as like a system that works on its own, right? So in your best of breed architect, we have documentation that describes all this. Struct is like, you know, the PIM solution. And the next step after that, of course, is to make all these products available within Ucommerce, so we can make them sellable at pricing and things like that. So Ucommerce also happens to live within Umbraco. So you can deploy them like this, where they're in one solution. Or you can deploy them separately, which would be sort of what we recommend usually going. This just to make the demo a little easier here. And you can see here are the products from within Struct transferred into Ucommerce, and that's part of the that integration accelerator we have in place there. The next step after that, of course, is to make the products present on the global interwebs, so somebody can buy them. And for that, we have Avenue Clothing, which is the demo store that ties all this together within Umbraco. So Umbraco powers this website. All the products are being presented here and made available. And the cool thing is that based on the behavior and the sales and all that's happening, that's all fed back to Raptor, which then turns around and provides product recommendation that pop up down here. So based on what I'm doing on the web, these recommendations will change based on what I buy. So we can sort of make sure that we present the correct product to the right customer. And all that is powered by Raptor, of course, here. So you can see all the sales data and all that good stuff. So this is basically the information that powers the recommendation behind the scenes. So I'm not going to spend too much time, digging into the details. Simone, I know, is very happy to show you all the nitty-gritty of Raptor, and I know Simon and Per will definitely be very interested in doing the same for Struct, and I know Paul is definitely also champing at the bit to do the same for Ucommerce. So, but just to show you, that all this can actually just work out of the box if you want. So very quick demo there, and I think we're sort of nearing the end of the show. Yes, so I just wanted to make sure we brought up this one more time. So, we pick out the pieces, we name the pieces, we integrate the pieces, and so you can take them and use them. You will require development work. I just want to emphasize that we don't want to sort of say it's just deploy best of breed solution to the web. It is still a complex piece of IT that you're putting into place. We've done some work to make it easier for you to get started with it, and then you can sort of evolve it over time. And I also think this is important for all of us because Struct works with other commerce platforms than us. We're working on that. We'll work that one out. And we, of course, work with other PIM systems and other CMSs, and Simone, of course, also works with other all sorts of platforms, right? So it's key here that we also explain that, it's not an exclusive thing. You can basically go ahead and do whatever you want, right? Go with whatever CMS makes sense for you. Go with whatever PIM system or ECOM platform or recommendation engine. The important thing is that you think about how you put together the architecture. And if you decide to go down this route, Commerce Alliance is here to help you solve some of the problems, not all of them, but it is completely optional, and you can also just pick some of the pieces out of Commerce Alliance if you want. So, so that's best of breed, that's Commerce Alliance, that's Struct, Raptor, and Ucommerce. And before we go, I just wanna give you some contact information. So if you're interested in recommendation, you can get in touch with Simone here via email or phone. I'm sure you can help with the demos and engagements and all that good stuff. Yes? Yes. Per is standing by at Struct. I think, Per, was it your third week at Struct at this point? How long was it? You were fairly new there, yeah?
Yeah, that's correct. 3 weeks. So right now I'm gathering all the information I can, but still, yeah, feel free to contact me if you have any questions regarding the PIM or the process, pricing information. I'll be happy to supply that. So contact me, and I'll be happy to work with you.
Excellent. And I know Struct has great onboarding. Well, we all do, right? Because it's super important for us to work with partners. And of course, Paul would very much like to hear from you. And I know Paul will reach out to you and just sort of to get a sense of how it all went, and whether whether there's a basis to continue to chat here. And the final thing is, it just so happens that we're getting ready to launch a new version of Ucommerce in January that we are very excited about. So back in the beginning of the year, we started a cloud journeys to support the whole Commerce Alliance story. And the first step of that is getting ready to be delivered in January, where we're going to deliver the headless version of Ucommerce, so we can work even better within Commerce Alliance and best of breed solutions. And of course, there's an order management in there as well. So there is a thing you can click, I think, somewhere in chats, where you can sign up for that. So if you're interested in more roadmap and things like that, please sign up for that. And there's also a little like call to action down there that I promised to Anna to point at. She's actually the one who's been so kind to operate the cameras. So good job, Anna. And I just want to thank you all for joining us today. Thank you, Simone. Thank you, Simon and Per. And thank you, Paul Vass, for being here today. And thank you to the audience. I hope you enjoyed the show. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to any of us. We would very much love to help you out.